Vincent James hadn't bought flowers in years, yet here he was, standing in line at a corner flower shop with a $10 bill crumpled in his palm and his 6-year-old son tugging at his jacket sleeve. "Dad, are flowers really going to make Miss Carter let me retake the test?" Tanner asked, squinting up at him with hopeful eyes. Vincent sighed and ruffled his son's hair. "No, buddy, but they might show her you're sorry for falling asleep in class." Tanner beamed. "You're the best dad ever." Vincent gave a tired smile. He didn't feel like the best at anything these days. Working 2 jobs after his ex took off, barely scraping by, and still making time to help his kid apologize with a bouquet? That had to count for something. The bell above the shop door jingled as they stepped inside. The smell of lavender and fresh roses hit instantly. Vincent spotted a modest bouquet of daisies wrapped in brown paper near the counter. "Perfect," he muttered, reaching for it. But just as his fingers brushed the paper, someone else reached at the same time. "Oh, sorry." Her voice was smooth, a little breathless. Vincent looked up. She was tall, with dark brown curls pulled back into a low bun, sharp cheekbones softened by a warm smile, and eyes the color of honey in sunlight. She wore a simple navy coat over what looked like a cream silk blouse. The kind of woman who didn't belong in a dusty flower shop on a Wednesday afternoon. "You take it," she said, pulling her hand back. "No, it's all right," Vincent replied. "I'm buying it for someone else. My son messed up at school. These are his sorry flowers." Her eyes flicked to Tanner, who waved with a gap-toothed grin. "Hi, I'm Tanner." She smiled. "I'm Zara." "That's very thoughtful of you." Vincent didn't know why, but he suddenly felt self-conscious, like his worn jeans and old flannel shirt were loud in a place like this. "I'm Vincent, and this little guy's the reason I'm constantly broke and covered in peanut butter." Zara laughed. It was light, but real. That's usually a sign of good parenting. He handed the flowers to the cashier before she could insist again. "I think it's the least I can do." As the cashier bagged the bouquet, Zara leaned slightly closer. "You know, there's a florist on 10th who does apology cards shaped like dinosaurs." Vincent raised a brow. "That sounds oddly specific." "I've been on the receiving end of a few dinosaur cards," she admitted. "Sometimes, a brontosaurus gets the point across better than words." He chuckled. "Duly noted." She hesitated, then glanced at her watch. "Actually, I was heading to a dinner meeting, but I've got 20 minutes to kill. Want to join me for a coffee?" "My treat." Vincent blinked. "Wait, really? Unless you have somewhere to be." He checked the time. Tanner's aftercare pickup was in 30 minutes. "I've got 20 minutes. Zara smiled. "Great. There's a cafe 2 doors down." Vincent followed her out, holding Tanner's hand. The cafe smelled like cinnamon and fresh coffee. They grabbed a corner booth, and Zara ordered 3 hot chocolates, hers with almond milk. "So what do you do, Vincent?" she asked as they sat down. "I work maintenance at a hospital, and I drive for a ride-share app at night." She nodded slowly, stirring her drink. "That's a lot." "Yeah, well, single dad life." He shrugged. "What about you?" Zara paused only a second. "I run a design firm." "Like interior design?" "Mostly architecture. High-end builds, commercial spaces. A little bit of everything." Vincent let out a low whistle. "That sounds intense." "It can be," she said. "But I like it." Tanner slurped his drink loudly, then whispered, "She's really pretty, Dad." Vincent nearly choked, and Zara laughed again, cheeks going pink. "Well, he's honest," she said. "He's 6, Vincent muttered. "He hasn't developed a filter yet." They talked until Vincent had to check his watch again. "We should go." "I don't want to be late for pickup." Zara stood with them, brushing her coat smooth. "I'm glad I ran into you." He smiled. "Me too." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small business card. "If you ever want to grab coffee again, or if you need dinosaur-themed advice." Vincent took it, eyes skimming the elegant font. Zara Fairmont, CEO, Fairmont and Company. His brain snagged on the word CEO. "Wait, you're the CEO?" Zara tilted her head. "Yeah, as in, the boss." She nodded. He blinked. "Of the design firm?" "Yes." Vincent stared at her, stunned. He had assumed she was someone's assistant, maybe a manager. But CEO? That sounded like a different world. Zara seemed to read the hesitation in his face. "Still want to call me about dinosaurs?" Vincent laughed, shaking his head. Yeah, I do." She smiled, and he swore the whole room warmed with it. Later that night, after Tanner was asleep, Vincent sat at the kitchen table staring at her card. He He turned it over in his hands, heart thudding a little faster than it should. He didn't know what this was, but it felt like something. And for the first time in a long time, something felt good. Really good. Vincent didn't call her. Not the first day. Not the second. Not even the third. The card stayed on his kitchen counter, weighed down by a salt shaker like it might blow away if he didn't anchor it. He stared at it every time he made coffee or cut sandwiches for Tanner's lunch. It wasn't that he didn't want to call, he did. But there was a gap between wanting and believing he had the right to. She was a CEO. A woman who probably drove something sleek and foreign, with a calendar booked out 6 months in advance. He drove a rusted Toyota with a crooked passenger door and had to remind himself to check the fridge before payday. Their worlds didn't overlap. That coffee shop meeting had been a glitch in the matrix. Still, the card stayed exactly where he left it. On the 6th day, Tanner came home with glitter stuck in his eyebrows and a drawing folded into quarters. "We made family portraits," he announced, sliding it across the table. Vincent unfolded it. Crayon lines filled the page. Tanner with a cape, Vincent with exaggerated muscles, and a woman with a big smile and curly brown hair, holding a bouquet of daisies. "Who's this?" Vincent asked, tapping the woman's dress. "That's Miss Zara. She looks like the kind of person who'd read bedtime stories with voices." Vincent blinked. "You drew her in our family picture? She gave us marshmallows and our hot chocolate. That means she's cool." Vincent laughed, but the sound didn't quite reach his stomach. That night, after Tanner fell asleep watching a dinosaur documentary, Vincent stood at the counter, staring down at the card again. His fingers hovered over the edge. He didn't call. He showed up. Fairmont and Company sat inside a glass tower downtown, the kind of building with polished brass railings and a doorman in a suit who looked like he'd been born with a clipboard in his hand. Vincent walked in wearing the cleanest shirt he owned and boots he'd wiped down with a damp cloth. He felt like he was tracking dust with every step. The receptionist looked up with a practiced smile. "Welcome to Fairmont and Company. Do you have an appointment?" "I don't," he admitted, adjusting the strap of the messenger bag slung over his shoulder. "I'm looking for Zara Fairmont. Tell her Vincent James is here." The woman typed something into her screen, then lifted a brow. "One moment." Vincent waited, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. He watched people pass by in tailored suits and expensive shoes. Every second that ticked by made him feel more like an imposter. But then soft footfalls on the marble floor. Zara turned the corner, her coat draped over one arm, a phone still in her hand as she walked. Her eyes landed on him, and a flicker of surprise crossed her face, but then it melted into something warmer. Not polite. "Pleased." "Vincent," she said, slipping her phone into her coat pocket. "I wasn't expecting you." "I know," he said, stepping forward. "I wasn't sure I should come." "Come up," she said, motioning toward the elevator. "We'll talk in my office." The ride to the top floor was silent. He could smell her perfume, something subtle, not floral, but sharp and clean, like bergamot and ambition. The elevator doors opened to a wide space filled with natural light and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline. Her office had a leather couch, a glass desk, and a shelf lined with architectural models. She gestured for him to sit, then crossed to a small sideboard and poured 2 glasses of water. "I didn't mean to drop in like this," Vincent said, rubbing his palms on his jeans. Tanner drew you into our family picture." Zara paused, the glass halfway to her lips. "He did. Yeah. Said you looked like someone who'd do story voices." A smile tugged at her mouth. "He's not wrong." Vincent leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I figured if a 6-year-old can be that sure about things, maybe I should try being a little braver." Her eyes softened. "You don't owe me bravery." "I know, but I wanted to see you again." Zara set her glass down. "You didn't call. I wasn't sure you wanted me to. I gave you my card. You're a CEO." She raised an eyebrow. "And I fix broken pipes and give people rides at 2 in the morning." She crossed her legs, folding her hands in her lap. "Do you think that matters to me?" "I think it probably should," he said honestly. "Your world's marble floors and rooftop galas. Mine's cereal for dinner and fixing the heater with duct tape." Zara leaned back, studying him. "Do you know how many men I meet who have everything on paper but not a clue how to show up for someone?" He didn't answer. "You showed up," she said. "That means more than you think." There was a beat of quiet between them, the city humming faintly beyond the glass. "Are you free Friday?" she asked suddenly. He blinked. "What?" "I have a benefit dinner. It's for a housing initiative I fund. I need someone to keep me from strangling half the board. He chuckled. You're asking me to be your date. Technically, I'm asking you to be my shield. He hesitated. I don't own anything that passes for formal. I'll take care of it, she said simply. Vincent looked at her, really looked. She wasn't offering him charity. She was offering him a seat at her table. He nodded. All right, I'll be there. Zara stood and extended her hand. He took it, and for a moment, neither of them let go. As he stepped back into the elevator, Vincent's heart thudded like it had something to prove. She hadn't just let him into her office. She'd opened a door neither of them could unsee now. Vincent stood in front of the full-length mirror in the men's dressing suite of a boutique he hadn't even known existed until Zara had sent a car to pick him up. The suit fit too well, midnight blue, tailored sharp along the shoulders, the fabric smooth and expensive in a way that made him feel like he was wearing someone else's life. He adjusted the slim black tie again, then glanced down at the polished shoes that didn't look like they'd ever seen a sidewalk. Behind him, an attendant stepped back with a satisfied nod. It's Valentino. Timeless, but with an edge. Vincent cleared his throat. It's a lot. The woman smiled. You pull it off. He didn't say what he was thinking, that he hadn't worn a suit since his cousin's wedding 5 years ago, and even then, the tie had been a clip-on. The driver was waiting outside with the door already open. Vincent slid into the back of the black SUV and tried not to sweat through the linen shirt. The city lights blurred against the windows as they crossed into a neighborhood where the buildings stopped looking like places people lived and started resembling museums of wealth. The benefit was held at a private art gallery with tall columns and a valet line that snaked halfway around the block. Vincent stepped out and straightened his jacket, ignoring the glances from tuxedoed guests who probably knew the difference between heirloom diamonds and champagne vintages. Then he saw her. Zara stood near the entrance, speaking with a man in a burgundy dinner jacket. Her dress was ink black and cut to the collarbone, with a dramatic open back, her curls twisted up and held by a single silver pin shaped like a crescent. As she turned and caught sight of him, her expression changed. Not surprise. Something closer to quiet pride. You clean up well, she said as he approached. Vincent gave a crooked half-grin. You're not so bad yourself. She laughed softly and slid her arm through his. Come on, let's terrify a few donors. Inside, the gallery gleamed with modern art installations and white marble floors. Waiters floated by with trays of wine and hors d'oeuvres Vincent didn't recognize. A string quartet played near the far wall. Zara moved through the room with effortless poise, every glance and conversation flowing around her like she belonged to another realm entirely. At first, he tried to stay quiet, to blend in. But then someone asked him how he and Zara met. She stole the last bouquet of daisies at a flower shop, Vincent said, deadpan. I threatened to fight her for it. She offered me coffee instead. The group around them laughed, and Zara gave him a look that was half amused, half exasperated. You didn't have to tell them I stole the flowers. You didn't deny it. As they moved through the crowd, he noticed how often people deferred to her, how easily she could pivot from a conversation about corporate zoning to a joke about art installations made of recycled metal. And yet, every few minutes, her hand would brush his arm, or her eyes would find his again, like she was tethering herself back to him. Later, after the speeches and applause had faded, they slipped out onto the gallery's rooftop terrace. The city stretched wide around them, lights blinking like stars fallen to earth. Zara leaned on the railing, her clutch dangling from one hand. Thank you for coming tonight. I know this wasn't exactly your scene. Vincent joined her, looking out over the skyline. I didn't expect to enjoy it. But I did. Even the foie gras? I didn't eat anything I couldn't pronounce. She laughed, the sound quieter now, more tired but content. Sometimes I forget how strange this world can seem from the outside. You don't seem like you forget much, he said. I forget what it's like to be surprised by someone. He turned to look at her. Am I surprising you? You keep showing up. That's rare. Vincent hesitated, then said, Can I ask you something? She nodded. Why me? Zara didn't answer right away. She looked back over the city, her profile etched against the light. Because you don't want anything from me. Not my money, not my name. You didn't ask what I do, or who I know. You just listened. You were decent. That's a low bar. No, she said, turning to face him. It's not. You'd be shocked how many people fail to clear it. The wind picked up, and Vincent shrugged out of his jacket, draping it over her shoulders without asking. She looked down at the fabric, then up at him, something unreadable in her expression. I used to think I had to be bulletproof to run this company, she said. No cracks. No softness. But lately, I keep wondering if that's just another kind of cage. He didn't say anything. She didn't need answers, just space to say it out loud. After a long moment, she looked at him again. Would you come with me this weekend? There's a place upstate I go when I need to breathe. I'd like you to see it. He blinked. You want to take me out of the city? It's not a test. I didn't think it was. She waited. I steady. Vincent thought about Tanner, about the weekend shifts he could trade away, about the fact that none of this made sense except that it did. Okay, he said. I'll come. Zara smiled, but it lingered longer this time, like something inside her had settled. As they rode down in the elevator, neither of them spoke. But when the doors opened, she reached for his hand. She didn't let go. The house was perched on a quiet hillside, framed by tall pine trees and the kind of silence that didn't exist in the city. It wasn't oversized or cold like Vincent had expected. The exterior was all stone and cedar, with climbing ivy around the windows and a wraparound porch that looked like it belonged in a storybook. The kind of place built for exhaling. Zara parked the SUV herself at the top of the gravel drive. She didn't hand the keys to anyone or bark instructions into a phone. Just stepped out, grabbed the overnight bag from the back, and motioned for Vincent to follow. Inside, it was warm and open. Not staged or sterile, everything felt lived in. A pair of boots near the door. A half-read book on the arm of a leather chair. A blanket slung casually across a window seat. I come here when I need to think, she said, setting her bag by the stairs. Or when I forget what thinking even feels like. Vincent looked around, taking it in slowly. Did you design it? I sketched the first draft on a napkin during a layover in Amsterdam. He gave a low whistle. You don't do anything halfway, do you? Zara shrugged off her coat. Not when it matters. Vincent dropped his bag near the fireplace, then turned to her. I've never been anywhere like this. I figured. That's why I brought you. Later, after unpacking and a quiet dinner roast chicken she'd made herself, paired with a bottle of wine she didn't look up the label for, they sat on the back porch wrapped in blankets, watching the last sliver of sun sink behind the trees. You really built all this from nothing? Vincent asked, sipping from a steaming mug. My mother was a cleaner, Zara said after a pause. She used to bring me to job sites, offices, hotels, anywhere she could get work. I'd sit in the supply closet with a coloring book while she scrubbed sinks. I remember once she pointed at the lobby of a hotel downtown and said, design something better than this someday. Something yours. Vincent glanced over at her. She'd be proud. She didn't live to see any of it, she said simply. But I like to think she'd approve of the foundation. A long silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable. Just full. Vincent stared into the woods, the wind rustling in the branches. I haven't brought anyone here, she said. Not even business partners. He looked at her, brow raised. I don't let people into my quiet spaces, she added. But you. Don't disturb them. Vincent set his mug down. I've spent most of my life trying not to take up space. To stay out of the way. Zara turned toward him, resting her elbow on the arm of the chair. You don't have to do that with me. He met her eyes, the porch light casting gold across her cheekbones. It's not just me anymore. I've got Tanner. He's my whole world. I know. It's not simple. I'm not asking for simple. He paused. Why now? What do you mean? Why me? Why this? You could be with anyone. Zara tilted her head, considering him. I've been with men who had everything: money, power, name recognition. They wore confidence like armor and thought ambition was enough. But they never looked at me the way you do. How's that? Like I'm not a title. Vincent's throat tightened. You're not. She reached out, threading her fingers through his. And you're not just a father who works 2 jobs. You're someone who listens, who notices the details other people skip. You showed up when it counted. Not many people do. He turned her hand over in his, tracing the lines on her palm. I'm terrified. I'm not. She leaned in first, and the kiss was slow, deliberate, not rushed or careless. It felt like a door opening, like every moment before had been waiting for this one. The next morning, they made pancakes together in the kitchen, Zara barefoot, hair damp from the shower, flipping batter with a concentration that made Vincent grin. He stood behind her, arms around her waist, and whispered something that made her laugh so hard she nearly dropped the spatula. By Sunday afternoon, he didn't want to leave. But he had to. Tanner was waiting back in the city with his godmother, and real life didn't pause just because something beautiful had begun. Zara walked him to the car, her coat pulled tight around her. "Will I see you tomorrow?" "I've got pickup," he said. "But after that, come to the office. I'll clear my evening." He kissed her forehead, then the corner of her mouth. "Don't forget me while you're conquering the world. I won't forget you when I'm building it." Back home, Tanner met him at the door in pajamas patterned with little rockets. "Did you bring me anything?" Vincent crouched and opened his bag, revealing a smooth stone with a spiral fossil in it. Straight from a mountain in upstate New York. Tanner's eyes widened. "Real dinosaur?" "Real enough." That night, after brushing his teeth and reading 3 chapters of a book about space explorers, Tanner curled up under his blanket and asked, "Is Miss Zara your girlfriend now?" Vincent paused at the doorway. "What makes you ask that? You look taller." He laughed. "Get some sleep, kid." But as he walked back to the kitchen, he thought about that. He felt taller. The next few weeks moved like a current neither of them tried to fight. Dinners stolen between meetings, late-night drives when she needed air, weekends spent walking through parks with Tanner tagging along and Zara holding his hand without hesitation. She didn't flinch at sticky fingers or questions about dinosaurs. She leaned in. One Friday, Vincent arrived at her office to find a note waiting with the receptionist. "Penthouse. Sunset. Don't be late." Confused, he followed the instructions. The elevator opened to a private rooftop deck strung with Edison bulbs and a long table set for 2. Zara stood at the far end, wearing a deep navy dress, her hair swept back, the skyline glowing behind her. He crossed the rooftop slowly. "What's all this?" "You always take care of everyone else," she said. "Tonight's for you." He stopped in front of her. "You didn't have to do this." "I wanted to." She reached into her clutch and pulled out a small velvet box. Vincent stared at it. "Is that?" "It's not what you think," she said, opening it. Inside was a silver key. "It's to the lake house," she said. "There's a second bedroom. For Tanner. And a space by the fireplace where I think your books would look good. No pressure. No timeline. Just, if you want more room. With me." He didn't speak for a second. Then, softly, "You sure?" She smiled. "I've never been more sure of anything." He pulled her into his arms, the city humming around them, and held her like he'd never known how good it could feel to be chosen. Not because of what he lacked, but because of who he was. And when he kissed her, it wasn't the beginning of something impossible. It was the start of something finally right. The first snow fell softly over the city, dusting street lamps and high-rise windows in white as Vincent carried a paper bag filled with takeout up the elevator to Zara's penthouse. He'd just dropped Tanner off at his friend Diego's for a sleepover, his first night away since the lake house invitation. Vincent had hesitated, but Zara had said, "Let him have his space. You need yours too." She was in the open kitchen when he arrived, sleeves rolled up, barefoot on the stone floor, stirring something in a saucepan. The place smelled like garlic and herbs, despite the dinner he brought. He set the bag down and leaned against the counter. "You cooked." She glanced over her shoulder, eyes calm. "I didn't like the idea of you eating from a paper bag when I've got truffle cream on the stove." He laughed under his breath. "You're going to ruin me." Zara poured the sauce into a bowl with slow precision. "That's the idea." They ate on the couch, knees brushing, plates balanced on their laps. The fireplace flickered in the background, illuminating her with a kind of golden softness. Vincent watched her for a minute, then set his fork down. "I've been thinking about something," he said carefully. Her eyes lifted. "That sounds serious." "It is. I've been offered a new position. At the hospital. A supervisor role. Better hours, more stability. It's not glamorous, but it means no more night shifts. I'd be home when Tanner needs me. I could even start saving again." Zara placed her plate on the coffee table. "What's stopping you?" "I feel like I'm standing in 2 lives. The one I've always known, and this one I'm building with you. And I'm scared of messing up both." She reached for his hand. "You won't. I've made peace with struggle. I never imagined I'd get to want more." Zara's voice was steady. "You're allowed to want." "I want you," he said gently. "That much is easy." Her expression shifted, something quiet blooming behind her eyes. "Then take the job. Build a life that gives you space to breathe. We'll figure out the rest together." Later that week, Vincent signed the contract. The first person he told was Tanner, who high-fived him so hard he nearly spilled his cereal. The second was Zara, who showed up at the hospital parking garage with a bottle of bourbon and 2 tumblers in a velvet-lined box. "For toasting," she said, lifting the lid. "This is a milestone. Please tell me this didn't cost more than my car." Vincent, he grinned and popped the cork. As the weeks turned to months, their lives began to blend not in a dramatic, sweeping collision, but in the quiet folding of routines. She learned how he took his coffee. He memorized the way she liked her files organized by color, not date. Tanner started calling her Z without prompting. She never corrected him. On a Saturday, Zara surprised them both by showing up at Vincent's apartment with a binder. "What's this?" he asked, flipping it open. "Design concepts," she said. "For a home. Ours." He froze. "You want to build something? With me? I've built for clients. For investors. For my legacy. But never for love." He opened to the first page. A sketch of a 2-story house with wide eaves, a wraparound porch, and a small observatory on the roof. You remembered Tanner's obsession with space. Zara rested her chin on his shoulder. "He's going to need a telescope." They bought land just outside the city. Not far, but far enough. Every weekend, the 3 of them drove out to watch the progress. Tanner with a clipboard, Zara with her camera, Vincent with his sleeves rolled up, helping the crew when he wasn't taking photos of them both. The house took shape slowly, but their life didn't wait. They found rhythm in the in-between. Dinners in the city, weekends by the lake, school projects spread across Zara's office floor. One night, after a parent-teacher conference where Tanner received a glowing report, Vincent came home to find the lights in the penthouse dimmed, candles flickering on the dining table. Zara stood by the window, her dress floor-length in silver, her hair down in soft waves. Vincent stopped in the doorway. "Am I late for something?" She turned around. "No, but I am." He frowned. "What do you mean?" She walked toward him, slipping something into his hand. A small velvet pouch. Inside was a ring. Not an engagement ring. A simple band, engraved with 3 initials, V, Z, T. "I've never believed in tradition for tradition's sake," she said. "But I believe in us. I believe in this family. And I want to ask you something." He stared at her, heart thudding harder than any gala speech or job interview had ever made it beat. "I want to build the rest of my life with you," Zara continued. "Not just a house. A future. So, Vincent James, will you marry me and let me spend every day proving I meant it?" He didn't speak. He couldn't. Instead, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her like the world was finally still. "Yes," he whispered against her cheek. "Yes to everything." They married in the spring, barefoot in the grass behind the nearly finished house. Tanner walked Zara down the aisle, holding her hand with solemn pride. The ceremony was small, just close friends, a few colleagues, and the construction crew who insisted on standing in the back with tearful eyes and dusty boots. There was laughter and dancing, and vows that didn't sound like promises but truths already lived. Vincent looked out over the field as the sun dipped low, casting everything in amber. He felt a weight lift, not the kind that crushed, but the kind that grounded him. His life wasn't divided anymore. It had become whole. Zara came up behind him, arms around his waist. He leaned back into her. "Did you ever think," she said softly, "that a bouquet of daisies would start all this?" He turned in her arms, brushing her hair back. "I think the universe knew what it was doing." They stood there for a while, watching the wind move through the trees. And when Tanner ran up, breathless and laughing, clutching a paper with a new drawing, a rocket ship, a dog, 2 adults holding hands, Vincent looked down and smiled. "Is that us?" "It's our next adventure," Tanner said proudly. "We're going to the moon." Zara looked at Vincent. "You ready for that?" He kissed her temple. "As long as we're flying together." And they were always.